Welcome inside TCO Studios. This is Pick 6 presented by KFAN. I'm Tatum Everett, and this show is all about your fan questions, which you submitted via Twitter to my handle at Tatum Everett. Let's get things going with question number 1. Compliments of the Magic Skull Bus. Great Twitter handle, by the way. He wants to ask the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, a question. He tweeted, how does PA feel the season went, and what is he looking forward to the most next season? So PA, what's your answer?
Magic Skull Bus from 13-4 in the regular season to 13-5 overall. How can you not think that that's nothing but good? Now, the way it ended, could be debated that, well, the way it ended was not good. But then you look into the details and or particulars of what got you to that 13-4, and you have a first-year coach with a defense that had some problems and a quarterback who had the best season of his career. So then if you just inherently figure how much that's going to improve, and it is going to improve, how could you not be excited? I want to be on that Magic Skull Bus and see where it takes us next year.
Yes, PA, I agree. I think a lot of people after the 2022 campaign might be hopping on the Magic Skull Bus for sure. Well, the Vikings' hot topic this week has, of course, been the defensive coordinator search. And that leads us to question number 2. Mike asks, what is the most important factor in Kwesi choosing a defensive coordinator? Experience in a specific system, past defensive success, or other? Fox Sports' Carmen Vitale answers this one from Mike.
What is the most important factor in Kwesi choosing a DC? Is it experience in a specific system, past defensive success, other? And I think the short answer is all of the above. But what I really think is that you need to get someone that's going to get the most out of the talent that you already have. Your biggest free agents this year are Patrick Peterson, Dalvin Tomlinson, but the majority of that defensive side of the ball is staying the same. So I think you need a guy that can get the most out of those guys, especially up front, especially in that pass rush with Zadarius Smith and Daniil Hunter. There's no excuse for those guys to not be getting after the quarterback. So I think he doesn't necessarily need to be a 3-4 guy. You've seen those shifts happen, but if that's what the personnel is tailored towards right now, it certainly makes things easier. But the biggest part, I think, is just a little bit more creativity than what we saw out of the Minnesota defense last year.
Thanks, Carmen. Don't forget to check out Vikings.com for the defensive coordinator interview tracker where you can keep up with the latest on the search. Our next question is also about the defense. It's coming to us from Daniel on Twitter. What type of defensive style do you think KOC is going for in 2023? Enjoy the offseason. Well, thanks for that, Daniel. And we took this question to KFAN 9 to noon producer Eric Nordquist to see what Nordo thinks.
Hey, it's Nordo from KFAN, and that's a terrific question, Dan. A year ago, they get Zadarius Smith and Harrison Phillips because they knew they needed to be more powerful up front, and that's not just against the run, but affecting the QB in that pass game, play after play after play. It just wasn't good enough, and it didn't happen often enough in 2022. So moving forward, new defensive coordinator helps dictate personnel, whether it's a 3-4 or a 4-3 base. They do play about 75% nickel, so remember that. But the pass rush is at the top of the list, being aggressive there. And as head coach has said himself, he wants more speed and athleticism at various positions throughout. So in the end, what does Kevin O'Connell want from his defense? To be improved.
That's such a great point, Nordo. And this defensive unit will look to rebound after ranking 31st in total yards allowed in the league last season. Well, our next question has to do with the Pro Bowl, which is happening next week. Several Vikings players will be there, like Kirk Cousins, TJ Hawkinson, Dalvin Cook, Zadarius Smith. But this question is for Pro Bowl long snapper Andrew DePaola. It's coming from Nancy in Rochester, and she's asking Andrew, well, first she wants to tell him, congrats on your first Pro Bowl. But what are you most excited about? Andrew, take it away.
Thanks, Nancy. What I'm most excited about actually is getting to spend a couple days out there with my family, my wife and kids. I know it's not something that happens every year, so really just looking forward to getting some pictures with them, sharing their experience with them, and just having a really good time.
Thanks, Andrew. The Vikings Entertainment Network will also be out at the Pro Bowl, so be sure to download the Vikings app or check out all the content on any of our social media channels to follow along. Question number 5 is next. It comes to us from Jake. He asks, now that the season is over and the focus moves to the draft, should we focus on defense with our limited picks, or should we look to get a speedy outside wide receiver or something else? Skull from Idaho. We asked Fox 9 sports reporter and anchor Ahmad Hicks to answer Jake's question.
Hey Jake, great question. I think the Vikings should use all of their draft picks on defensive players unless they're going to go get an interior offensive lineman. We saw last year this offense was ranked top 10 in the National Football League, and with Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and Kirk Cousins coming back, I think they will be in great shape. Now, you've heard that cliche saying defense wins championships. Well, if the Vikings want to contend for a Super Bowl next year, they're going to have to use a lot of their draft picks on defensive players, especially somebody in that secondary.
I personally love that viewpoint from Ahmad. The Vikings have currently 4 draft picks, beginning with pick number 23. But with all the wheeling and dealing Kwesi Adofo-Mensah did last season, it's sure to be an exciting time. Well, rounding out pick 6, we have our final question, and it's from Jerry, who asks, I believe the Vikings need a speedy receiver to take the top off. What are your thoughts and any potential free agents in mind? Vikings Entertainment Network's Gabe Henderson answers this one.
Jerry, appreciate the question. When you go back to Kevin O'Connell's and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's press conference a couple of weeks back, they said speed is what this Minnesota Vikings team will be defined as going forward. And wide receiver, that's the position that comes to mind for me. A guy that comes to mind is McCole Hardman, wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs, who had an injury this offseason, but when you look at his speed, 4.3, can burn you down the field, can catch in space. If you put the ball in his hands, he knows how to make plays. Coming into this offense where he does not have to be a wide receiver number 1, I think that makes this offense that much better because now you have JJ who can pretty much do whatever you want, but also you have to think about another guy, McCole Hardman, who can take a shot down the field, but also beat you in space. I like what this Minnesota Vikings offense can be in 2023, and adding a receiver that has that kind of dynamic speed can make this offense that much better.
Thanks, Gabe. That wraps up this edition of Pick 6. If you want your question to be featured on the show, you can tweet them at me, at Tatum Everett on Twitter. Well, that'll do it for this edition. We will see you in 2 weeks.